Hello, everybody. Welcome to Digital Works TV. I'm Steve Johnson. Our special guest today, Andrew Dillard. He's a junior at Auburn, a rising junior, and he's majoring in systems engineering, industrial and systems engineering. Let me say that right. And this summer, he's working for an aerospace defense company in North Alabama and doing some model-based systems engineering modeling. Did I cover all that essentially
That is
correctly?
fantastic, Steve. Yeah. Hey, super excited to be here. As Steve said, Auburn has been a fantastic place to start learning some of this model-based systems engineering stuff. I'm super excited to be here today to get to kind of talk to you all a little bit about that. And
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so you're majoring in industrial / systems engineering.
Yes.
Is this you? And you have a job, and are you essentially? Well, first of all, let me drop back a little bit. Why did you had you always wanted to be an engineer, just an engineer?
Absolutely. So, growing up in Huntsville, born and raised here, you're always around the rockets. You're always around the missile stuff. And growing up, I was always involved in different things that were either techie kind of things, whether it was video games or YouTube videos or making things or Legos. I was always creating things, right? And so growing up here, my dad also works on the Arsenal. So with those two things, I was always around that kind of culture. From a young age, I always thought the first step I was going to take was going to be an engineer. Didn't know what, didn't know how, didn't know where, but it was always in my brain kind of the default step. When I got to Auburn, started out in aerospace engineering.
Okay.
Again, being from Huntsville, you see a lot of that aerospace stuff. And so I was like, if I'm going to start somewhere, it wouldn't be a terrible place to start, aerospace. Figured out pretty quick at the end of my freshman year that, man, I love this aerospace stuff. It's neat, but I don't know if the technical side of this is totally what I want to do. And that is how I stumbled into model-based systems engineering.
Okay, so you decided. How far into college were you when you decided to be a systems engineering major?
Yeah. So I just finished my sophomore year, going into junior year. It was this past fall, that I made that switch. And, I was very fortunate to even find out about what MBSE was. I think a lot of kids have this kind of brain and this mindset that love visual learning, visual modeling. It's a lot of what MBSE is, right? And so for me, I was not quite seated in aerospace. I loved the kind of stuff, but I didn't know if I'd like the work.
Yeah.
And I got connected with a professor at Auburn that basically said, "Hey, Andrew, man, you're the kind of person that would really find this interesting."
Yeah.
And kind of threw me a bone and said, "Hey, take a risk, check it out. If you love it, stick with it. If not, that's okay. But I'd love for you to come and see it." And so that's what I did. I switched to industrial and systems engineering.
Okay.
And started
Wait,
taking.
so why industrial and systems engineering?
Yeah.
Why call it that? Why not just say I'm a systems engineering major?
Absolutely. So in a lot of colleges we're seeing right now, you see systems engineering not as its own standalone field, right? Its own standalone major.
Yeah.
Whether that's because people don't know enough about it yet or courses and curriculums aren't being developed enough for colleges to feel comfortable buying in. Most of the time you see a lot of colleges saying, okay, some systems things overlap with industrial, so we'll just rope it in with industrial.
Okay.
And I think Auburn is that way. Auburn basically says, okay, we've got this industrial curriculum.
Yeah.
Maybe 30% of that curriculum is systems already, so it's all kind of roped into one.
Okay.
So you can't take systems specifically at Auburn, but we have a lot of classes and really cool programs to kind of allow you to tailor that degree specifically to systems.
Are you wanting to be a systems engineer? Is that what you want to do?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that would be the hope, would be to do systems engineering.
Okay, so
hopefully MBSE.
So your summer job, you said that you were probably you're doing the equivalent of modeling in your summer job.
Yes, sir.
Okay, for I would assume a systems engineer over whatever program you're working on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what are you finding out about? Is this your first summer to actually do this?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So what are you finding out about systems engineering and modeling?
Yeah.
That you like? And I'm assuming, since you said, Steve, I was thinking I want to do this, but after doing it this summer, I'm going to have to switch back to something else. But you're kind of liking it, aren't you?
Absolutely. It's one thing to do this kind of stuff in your coursework at Auburn. It's another thing to step into a company on day one and to see it being used for real. You hear so much in today's world of, I didn't do half of what I did in college and in my real world, which is true sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's really neat to step into a place where you see the work being used. I think on day one of the summer already, which was about a month ago now, it was just fascinating to see, oh my gosh, my homework is actually real. And you meet people that are energetic, that love it, that are personable and outgoing. And I think more often than not, the people that do MBSE do it because they love it, because it's unique and because it allows you to visualize things that otherwise would be a text-based document, that's been used the same way for so long.
So my assumption is coming out of high school, you were computer savvy.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are you just as an aside? Are you real good at math, or are you?
I wish I was
proficient
better.
enough to get through. I mean, which are you? Are you a math whiz, or are you just a guy? Steve, I can do the math, but it's not my favorite thing.
I'm a people person. I think a lot of my friends at school asked me why I didn't become a preacher. So when I went to engineering, a lot of my friends thought I was crazy. They were like, Andrew, you need to be in communications or marketing. Like, you're a people person. But I think I love the problem-solving side of engineering. And whether that's with math or science, I love the idea of just being open-minded and figuring things out. Sometimes that's harder to do than others. I think I'm better at math than I am at science. Chemistry gave me a run for my money. I won't lie. But, I do think the math throughout my life so far has tended to be the thing that I've worked best with.
So you're not put off by any of the things that you're required to know to do model-based systems engineering.
No, sir. Yeah.
So you're day one. You're able to see the stuff you've talked about in class or done homework, and you're actually working on projects. So just from talking to you, on the phone, I mean, is this fun? I mean, are you getting paid to have fun this summer?
I mean, pretty much. A lot of people have a hard time finding work fun. You hear a lot of times from people, especially as a college kid, man, do something you love, do something you're going to find to be fun. And I think there's so much buzz around MBSE right now. There's so much talk about AI and all these big buzzwords. What's so cool about MBSE is that it helps everybody. It benefits everybody. And so anybody you talk to that's got an interest in it is trying to wrap their mind around it. And when you've got so many people that are so excited to just try to get their feet wet in this work, it makes you excited. It makes you feel a part of something. You feel like you're kind of a part of a community that is still very much growing and is very, very much a hot topic. And so it definitely makes the work a lot more fun.
So back at Auburn, do you have friends or have you made friends with other students who feel like you do about MBSE?
It's funny, we are in a stage with Auburn right now where we have got a department that wants to fuel this fire. We have a school that is more than capable of taking something like MBSE, fostering it, getting kids involved, and sending them off to be some of the best engineers in the country. But right now, we're in a stage of school where kids don't know what MBSE is. So it's in our role as students and student leaders to do what we can to try to create student organizations like in COSI and create initiatives to go to classrooms and say, hey, this is what this work is. Because ultimately, if kids don't know what it is, they'll never have a chance to just take a leap of faith.
So are you
in
doing
it.
that? Are you evangelizing about MBSE?
I'm doing my best. Yes, sir. And my greatest hope is that in my time here at Auburn, I can do my best to get MBSE out there. Again, I think if kids found it, they'd love it. It was just by chance that I stumbled into it and was like, you know what? Aerospace hitting for me. This is awesome. I'm going to give it a shot.
So have you just talked to some student? I don't, not even necessarily talk to, say, somebody still in high school or somebody. And from my time in college, I remember a lot of people, at least a year in, sometimes farther than that, they don't have a clue what they want to major in. So have you had any conversations where you've talked about it and talked about what you think about it, and somebody said, I think I'm gonna give that a try. Has that happened?
Absolutely. I think you pinpoint with somebody the things that they love, and if you can pick their brain and kind of get the why behind it, that's when you have an opportunity to say, dude, check this out. The thing I tell a lot of people is, okay, do you love visualizing things? Are you a visual learner? A lot of kids love video games, right? Did you play Minecraft, something creative? Did you like building Legos? If those are the kind of things you like, then this is something to check out. I think a lot of people don't know that MBSE lets you utilize languages like SysML, which is a visual modeling language. That sounds like a bunch of jargon to people. If you go to a kid and say, hey, you want to learn a visual modeling language, that kid's just worried about what they're doing on Friday night. If you can sit down with somebody and really help them understand, oh my gosh, this is who I am, this is what I love, this is how my brain works, that's when you have that opportunity to present them with something and almost evangelize them to MBSE.
Okay.
You know.
So you like the building part of it.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I've heard from these are from people who are getting a modeling, going to community college, which DigitalWorks is heavily involved in the community college program to train modelers. But one of the things that the modelers, and I'm sure systems engineers like and prospective systems engineers think, is the fact that there's more than one way to get to the correct answer. Is that something you've encountered, and is that something you like?
I think a lot of times if you go to somebody who loves math and you say, hey, guess what? This thing's got multiple ways to get the right answer. That's going to drive them crazy. They just want a formula and they want to figure it out.
Well, that's not just math. And almost, you're in English class, you get you say what a poem means. The professor says, no, that's not what it means. It means this. Yeah. And that used to drive me insane.
Yeah. Totally.
But the whole idea of multiple ways to get to the correct answer, that intrigues me. And I am not an engineering major, but is that a fun part of it?
I think absolutely. A big thing about systems engineering that we'd love to talk about is how communicative of a field it is. You are taking a lot of different aspects of the engineering design process and trying to get everybody on the same page. That's what MBSE helps us to do. And when you're in an office and you're sitting at a table with 8 people, you're all going for the same goal, that same problem. It takes all 8 people's perspectives to say, hey, this is how I would do it. Or, hey, I grew up here and I saw this in the industry from where I grew up. And, oh, hey, I worked here for X amount of years and this is how they did it. MBSE and systems engineering in general is a collaborative kind of thing. And so I love that aspect of it because there is no set way to do something, right? Yeah. You just get the opportunity to combine perspectives, to talk to different people, hear them out, and really agree on things, really work things out. With engineering, if you can do the job, that's great. But if you can communicate it too, that's 10 times better. And that's what a lot of system engineers and model-based systems engineers are really good at. So it's a great group of people. Okay,
so you're working on a project, and I'm assuming that the systems engineer you're working for says, I need this, or I know this is have you been asked to work on a part for a system to develop it and model it and then send it back to the engineer? Have you been asked to do that?
Yeah, a lot of MBSE is fulfilling requirements, leveraging different things, different tools that we have available to us, and asking ourselves, how can we best fit that need? Yeah. A lot of the work that I'm doing this summer, a lot of the work that model-based system engineers do is, again, we talked about it being a communicative thing. A lot of the times with the customer, that's what it can look like. They'll say, hey, we need this. Yeah. We don't know how to do it, but this is what we need. We need this thing, and you may make it. And because there's no set way to do it, you may send it back. They may say that's awesome, but they may say, oh, I don't know. And it's a field where you have to kind of humble yourself and know that you're not going to do it perfect every time. Yeah. Right. A lot of what this is filling the customer's need. Okay. Right. Sometimes you may do something and you think it's better, but if the customer's like, you know what, that is the most efficient for what we want. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't have to be more complicated than you think. Sometimes you don't have to stress about it as much as you think. But does that answer your question a little bit? Oh,
yeah. Okay, one thing, and I don't know how much you know about just recent history, where the systems engineering done now digitally, once upon a time was draftsmen making drawings and a lot of meetings and people having to fly across the country for a meeting. So can you of course you're of an age and of a time when doing things digitally, why would you do it any other way? I mean, has that, I mean, do you appreciate, I guess is a way to ask it, how being able to do this on a computer makes things so much faster and clearer? The engineer can see if you work on something, if it changes the system, it's reflected digitally, and so so everything can be can accommodate itself to what needs to happen. I don't think I said that quite right, but you know what I'm talking about.
No, it's great. I totally, yeah. I mean, it's one of the best parts about this kind of work and these kind of engineers that have a knack for it. I mean, you can tell, me being 20 years old, early in my career, even now, it is fascinating to be able to have a customer say, hey, this is something we need to check out, for me to be able to query my model and immediately show them, hey, this is the traceability, this is the impact down the line. we take it for granted, right? But it's also so cool to be able to just imagine, like, man, this really is going to make a big difference. This really is way more cost effective. You know, you can turn a 500-page requirement diagram into a model pretty easily with this stuff. And it allows your whole workflow to be so much more efficient. And like you said, I'm in this point where I don't know the life before that, but I definitely can look at it. And especially as I learn from people who are older than me, who are more experienced than me, it helps me understand the why behind MBSE. Why did we develop this? But moreover, it really just allows me to get even more excited about, hey, how can I learn this stuff better? You know, I want to know, why was it harder back then? Why is it better now? Because it's in our role too as young professionals to get motivated to want to develop this kind of tool, this kind of field, you know, these kind of modeling languages, you know, and if we can understand where we've come from, it helps us get excited about where we are and know what the future may look like.
Okay, so it's obvious you like this. You like MBSE. You like working on it. Is there anything you found? Has there been any aspect of it that you found at least a challenge to begin with, where you thought, man, this is hard, or harder than I thought it would be? Has there been anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, MBSE utilizes a bunch of different languages, right? The main one that I've been using is SysML. It's a very, very known, very, I guess, standardized language across the MBSE methodology, right? For me, I'm not the kind of guy that loves to code. I'm not the kind of guy that can sit with Java or Python and code lines and lines and create that kind of thing. You know, I love creating. I said that earlier. I'm a visual learner, but keyword visual, you know. And so jumping into SysML and trying to learn this modeling language has been a kind of mental understanding of, okay, I am learning a language. This is not homeworks that I take tests on. You know, this isn't memorize and regurgitate like a lot of curriculum is in school. This is a language that I want to be familiar with. I want to be able to speak it. I want to be natural with it. And for me, that has been the biggest challenge. But luckily at Auburn, we've got some phenomenal professors and classes that are really pushing language law and are taking classes that are allowing you to learn that stuff in your course curriculum, which is super great.
Okay, and I'm assuming as you do the work and learn more, when you are able to create or be part of creating something, that has to be pretty cool. Very few, and I'm making a gross generalization here, but it strikes me that very few college students are able to actually practice what they're learning as a job.
Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure there are 10 minutes. No, I was able to do that.
Yeah.
But so it's got to be pretty cool taking stuff and taking what you've learned and make. Heck, that's a real product, and I'm part of it.
Yes. It's very reassuring. You know, it makes me really excited to get back to the plains in the fall because I not only have some experience, well, I'm only a month in, but I'll come out with experience, but more likely than that, I'm going to come out having connected the dots. You know what I mean? And that's going to allow me to study better and do my work in a way that's much more efficient, that's knowledgeable. It's just encouraging to get to apply what I'm learning. And it's even more encouraging to know that I'm actually enjoying it.
Okay, there's two parts of this. And I think you probably like both. There is the systems engineer. Let's talk about that first. What do you like best about the idea of being a systems engineer? What do you like best about that?
I love getting to have a hand in every piece of the puzzle. You know, I love the idea of, okay, mechanical guy has his mechanical engineering project. Electrical guy has his electrical engineering project. They're passionate, they're great at their jobs, but sometimes them communicating doesn't always work out. I love knowing that I get to be the person to come and shake the hand and say, hey, how do we communicate your thing to your thing? How do we create a central authoritative model to let everybody work together? You know, I'm a big, like I said, I'm a guy that loves to talk. I'm a guy that loves people, you know, and I think that aspect of systems engineering is really neat. I love getting to talk to different companies and different people and, you know, getting that opportunity to make every day a new day with that, you know.
Okay, so the other part is the actual modeling, which you're getting to do.
Yes.
What do you like best? So what excites you about just not the systems engineering, but the modeling, which would be working on a part of a system? What do you like about that?
I think unless your organization has a set way to model, everybody you meet has a fingerprint in the way they model. And what do I mean by that? Everybody does it a little bit differently. Everybody has a reason for one thing being better than the other. And every time you meet somebody, they're going to look at your work. They're going to say, whoa, why did you do that way? That's really interesting. There are some set definitions in these languages, a lot of them, but there's also some things that are left up to the engineer, and left up to the company to say, hey, use your intuition with your experience to judge that. I think when you model, it's super cool to be able to ask for help with somebody next to you and to get a really personal adaptation for why they chose to make that design decision. For a student like me, it gives me an opportunity to soak up all that knowledge and create my own fingerprint, you know what I mean? And try to understand, why does Andrew make that modeling decision? All in all, if you're trying to sell a product to a customer, to be able to have something unique, to be able to have a model that is exceptional, that only you can create, is really, really cool.
Okay, so do you foresee, or have you thought about a time, and I don't think it's because you hadn't been working long enough, but when some machine, some system will be in operation, and you can think to yourself, I was one of the engineers on that, or I helped model that. What will that be like?
I don't think we're too far from it, and I think when that comes, it's going to be a really, really, what's the word? Not gratifying feeling, but I mean, anybody that works hard loves to see their work pay off, One of the things I do at Auburn is undergraduate research, where we're working to implement cybersecurity into MBSE using large language models. And, so far the response to the technology and the software we're working on has been astounding. A lot of people from industry and academia want to see it grow. They want to see this kind of thing develop. Already seeing early signs of what could be, and it's already just all the more encouraging to keep working hard.
Yeah, one a systems engineer that I interviewed mentioned that one of the things that excited him was MBSE concepts moving into business, into actual organizations, agencies, commands, whatever. Is that something, does that ever get mentioned in college, that MBSE
Absolutely.
has lots of applications?
Absolutely. The amount of use cases for this technology is much more than I think the average person, the average engineer knows. This kind of thing where we all get to work on one, again, central authoritative model. I hate to throw that term around, but it's what it is. A lot of times, we're in a tunnel vision kind of thing where we're like, okay, let's use this for our missile systems. Let's use this for our drones, which is like, absolutely. It's awesome. But also, how can we apply this to hospitals? How can we get the doctor to the patient that much quicker with this kind of technology? How can we apply this to our water systems? Another student at Auburn, Alyssa McMenamin, she's working on a project where they are implementing cybersecurity into water booster pumps using MBSE to protect our nation's water supply. One thing that we're really interested in at Auburn is power grids. How can we protect the nation's power grids with this kind of thing? I think the amount of use cases with something being so creative and open-ended like MBSE, the sky's the limit, and we're just now scratching the surface as an industry to pouring in resources, passion, and training young engineers to enter into a new era of what MBSE is going to be able to do in the industry.
All right. Say I'm a student, some guy you met at the dining hall. They still have dining halls at Auburn, right?
They do, and they're fantastic.
Say you met me at the dining hall, and I'm looking and said, I'm thinking about changing to mechanical engineering. Did you say already you're a systems engineering major? Give me a reason. Why should I do that? Why should I change? Why should I? Mechanical engineering would be fine. My dad was a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
Why should I change? Give me what would you say?
You want to be a part of a new frontier. MBSE has been around for decades. It's not necessarily new, but we're at a turning point in the industry where kids have an opportunity and a hand reached out to them that they can take and run and experience something that they're going to get to be a part of a new renaissance in this kind of field. As we explore every kind of possible use case, it takes kids' yeses. It takes a kid to give a yes to this. And I think if I'm sitting in front of a mechanical engineer, you're going to have a great career. You're going to have no problem finding a job, especially in Huntsville, Alabama, right? But ultimately, the question is, do you want to do something that's really, really unique? Do you want to do something that can be used anywhere? Do you want to do something that you're not going to get put in a box and allows you to really be creative in not only what you do and how you model, but where you go? As we look at all these different use cases, it's going to create an industry where we have so many new jobs, new job opportunities, new things that are outside of defense, healthcare, and if you're the kind of kid that maybe, man, I'm a mechanical engineer, but I do kind of like healthcare. Well, guess what? You can do that with MBSE. pioneer it. This is an opportunity to express that and to fill that need. And guess what? The jobs are unbelievable. So the pay is definitely there.
Okay. Well, I think we'll end on that. Every student, so prospective students, Andrew Dillard has spoken. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, War Eagle.
Study hard, make us proud.
Doing my best.
And as an Auburn, proud Auburn, we got War Eagle back. All right. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for being with us on Digital Works TV. And remember, it works.